Hey, yo! Welcome back to Dugout and Beyond. So we got, of course, the college football championship is now set with 10 Miami and 1 Indiana here, going and playing off in Miami. So it's obviously a completely home game for Miami, as they don't have to go anywhere. This is where they play all season long when they play at home, of course. Of course, also that's where the Miami Dolphins play. But yeah, both teams are very, very good. Very good deep squads here, so they definitely can get this job done. And it's kind of course, a little bit opposite for both these teams. Of course, Miami, obviously, they actually were number 10 predicted in the preseason, so they were exactly right where they were expected to be, but not really expected to be in the national championship. They were expected to be, of course, in the conversation and, of course, fighting for this position, but obviously they got here. But yeah, Indiana, they were not even ranked in the top 5, not even the top 10. They were ranked 20th this year going in preseason, which from 20 to 1 is a massive accomplishment. So we can't even let that one slide by at all in this situation. But yeah, a little bit different situations here with the two squads and all this kind of stuff. Of course, we have a whole bunch of 5-stars on Miami. No 5-stars at all on Indiana, which just means that the grit and the determination from Indiana was just there completely the entire season. And yeah, they just worked their way up and just beat all the teams that they, of course, needed to beat, going undefeated this year. But let's start off with 10 Miami here, of course, the home team, and of course the team that's going to play in their home stadium, which every team wants to be able to do that in the national championship. That's just actually freaking awesome at that point. But we have Carson Beck, of course, lining up here as center. He does have 2 national championships at Georgia, where he was there for 4 years. But when they won those, he was the backup there, so he did not win anything as a starter. So that's, of course, what he's trying to lead his squad here, the Hurricanes, to in this year. Again, he transferred here to Miami this year, only season here. He's on about a $4 to $10 million NIL deal. He's getting paid from school, and also some brand dealerships, of course, are out there. So we don't really know the exact amount of money and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, he's 23 years old, of course. That's a little bit older than a lot of college kids. The average graduation year is 21. That's usually what some people end up as. But a lot of people actually, they've been getting the COVID years. They get redshirt years. They get redshirt injury years, medical years, all that kind of stuff. So you can have people actually playing for more than 4 to 8 years, 9 years. There's actually some guys that in the last couple of years have gotten years to just be like, how did they even get that? Like, they just were injured for their entire life, and now they're 28, 29 years old, and in college, and trying to play, and trying to still make a name for themselves. But in this situation, we have Carson Beck, of course, 23 years old, 3,581 yards on the year with 29 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and a QBR rating of 81.4. Again, we have them ranked as number 10, and they finish here as number 10 in the year, but of course, kind of, crazy if you want to think about it, the second seed for this year. And they only had 2 losses this year, but of course that kind of blew them out of a little bit. They were out of the rankings of like, hey, like, are they going to make even the playoffs this year? But those 2 losses were probably the biggest. Louisville and SMU. They were both unranked, but every other team that that went against, they either won by 10. They won by 10 or more points, except for one game against number 18 ranked Florida State, where they won by 6 points. Every other game, they basically blew out every team handedly, and it looked like they were going to be going the distance, and they definitely had the mentality to be able to continue to go and to grow and obviously build off of their mistakes that they had from the previous game, which they definitely did. Is a good reason why they're here. So it's definitely going to be an awesome situation to see how this team is going to be ranking up against now the number 1 team in the country. But yeah, let's go now to Indiana. Of course, for Fernando Mendoza. Absolutely amazing season here. Of course, he was ranked at number 20 in the season for this team, and they worked their way all the way up and just dominated this year. Nothing else left to say, but they dominated. 3rd season here. Of course, we actually had Mendoza actually go to Cal. Start at Cal in California, of course, in the ACC, and yeah, he transferred over. He was there for 2 years, then transferred to Indiana. But not only that, but also Mendoza is from Miami. He went to Christopher Columbus High School, which is actually a lot of very talented athletes are coming from, and which is literally right there. It is in Miami, and his dad actually played for Miami and all that kind of stuff. but they never offered him a deal. They never offered him had an offer for him, and this might be a little chip on the shoulder here for him, a little revenge. Hey, like, hey, look what you missed out on. Let's see. That's also a great. I love how this game is matching up here with just like the background of all this stuff and the history of how it all happened. Of course, he wasn't born there. He was born in Massachusetts. But yeah, growing up literally right there at the Miami University campus, like, that's insane to be able to now go play in your home state technically and against the team that you had your dad go to, and you didn't get an offer, and now you have basically the revenge on your side, which is going to be awesome here. I love that. Yeah, he has about a $2.6 million NIL deal paid Indiana, and also brand deals. Again, there's no actual defined amount. You're never going to ever know that. He is 22 years old, so just slightly younger than Carson Beck, and still older than the average college graduate here in the basically, I think, anywhere in the world. Technically, he finished with 3,349 passing yards, 41 touchdowns, which is just unreal, and 6 interceptions and a QBR rating of 90.2 on the year. Again, ranked 20th. He's also, of course, this year's Heisman winner, getting all and that's just awesome. He's worked a lot throughout this. This is going to be an insane matchup. Again, there's 0 5-star recruits on this team, and a whole bunch of, I think there's like 7 or 8 4-star recruits, and then you just go down 2, 3, 4, 1, all that kind of stuff. Every team is going to have basically 5 to 1-star, except for here Indiana going into the national championship, which just shows the amount of grit and determination this team has, which both sides do definitely have. Of course, that's why how Miami got booted out of the top 10 and then came back in, and then they basically were like, hey, let's just learn from what we have. Mendoza, of course, going in completely undefeated into this national championship game, which is just another major accomplishment in its own in its own right here. But yeah, this is going to be a pretty awesome thing to watch, and I know it's just going to be a battle to the end. Of course, we are always going to have some blowouts here in the playoffs. Some teams are just going to kind of match up with how they are with their standings. Of course, they strike the schedule that they had throughout the year. But hey, some things are just always going to fall into piece, and that's how it's just always going to end. And this is going to be, I'm expecting some blood to be shed here in this one and to be drawn. And just going to be battling it out, and I can't wait to even see how this is going to go. I'm going to make a prediction. It's going to be a wow, and I think they're going to I'm going to give 2 score prediction. I think it's going to be 21-17, and just complete like a last second field goal here. I think it's going to be tied 17-17 in the end, and then we're going to have, I think Indiana's going to pull off this win here and win it 20-17. Or, on the other end, I think it's going to be about 40-37, if that's 40-30 at that point, if that's even like possible with the score. I'm not really sure with that, Matt, but I think it's either going to be a bloodshed either way. I don't think it's going to be a massive blowout, which I really, really hope not, and most of the time you never hope that these games are going to be blowouts, because then you're just going to lose interest by the end of the third, going into the fourth quarter. No one's going to care. So I think it's going to be an absolute dominant. I think it's going to be both sides are going to be dominating, and you're going to just be like, wow, who's going to actually just come out in the end? But I think Indiana's going to pull this one off and completely finish off this season undefeated. And in the end, I think Mendoza's going to go number 1 overall to the Raiders in the end. So let's see how this all ends. Give me your predictions in the comments below, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace!